What is going on, you guys? Jonathan Zamora here. Today we are going to be talking about SOPs, standard operating procedures or recipes. These are basically just a written format of specific ways to do certain things. I use these for my team members, I use these for myself, and it honestly just makes life a whole lot easier. I don't just use this inside of my business, I use this for just about everything. So today we're going to be talking about how to write standard operating procedures, the best way to kind of start the thought process of what standard operating procedures you should be creating. And then I'm going to actually be giving you guys the full template and frameworks that I use to create standard operating procedures for my business, Settler Systems. Now, before we get there, I want to talk about how I first found standard operating procedures. It was about a year and a half to 2 years ago. I heard some guys talking about it on YouTube, and I don't have anybody in my family that does business or anybody that I knew growing up ever owned a business. And so when I heard somebody talking about standard operating procedures, as silly as it sounds now, it was like a light bulb went off. It was like, holy crap, this is crazy. Like, this is nuts. I could just create a recipe for how to do something. And that was how I first thought about it, was really like a recipe, which is what they basically are. And I was like, I could create a recipe for how to do something and then give that to somebody else and they'll just follow it. Yeah, that's basically what a standard operating procedure was. And as soon as this was, taught to me or shown to me, it was like, okay, cool. Like, light bulbs going off. This is how I should start building my business. And this is how I can start to hire and outsource work for other people. And so I hope that this video will be a similar sort of light bulb for you if you aren't using standard operating procedures, because the majority of businesses and business owners aren't, and it's really holding you back. So why is this beneficial for team members? Well, whenever you have a clean SOP for a position, which SOP is just the abbreviation for standard operating procedure, I'm going to be using SOP moving forward. Whenever you have an SOP that is clean and easy to follow, whenever you onboard a new employee for a specific position, their time to be effective is going to be a lot faster. And that's beneficial for you because you want them to be effective, or else you're just wasting money paying them. So their time to being effective is substantially faster. Now, for you as the business owner, why is this beneficial? Well, all of the tasks that you have to do as a business owner aren't necessarily important. One of the first things that I learned whenever I started business was Pareto's principle, which is basically the 80-20 rule. 80% of the things you do really only make up for 20% of the results, and 20% of the things you do make up for about 80% of the results. So what you should be doing as a business owner is be looking for those little places that you could start to apply leverage to your time and to your effort. And any of those things that are the 80% that are making up a small portion of the results but just take up a whole lot of your time, you should start to think about delegating those, creating systems and passing them on to other team members. That way you can start to do higher level tasks and eventually make more money and make your business more effective overall. So let's get straight into it. How are we going to be building these frameworks? Well, the very first thing I want to teach you is a framework that I built for myself and my team whenever we are going through and building out standard operating procedures. This framework is called the 4Ds framework. Now, what is the 4Ds framework? Well, number one is the first D, which is definite. This is the exact process that should be taken. The more specific you are when you're writing an SOP, the better. So good is add 3 droplets of ketchup, and bad is add ketchup. You have to be very specific whenever you're writing an SOP, and so here is the case there. Next is going to be direct, easy to understand, no technical terms, not long-winded, straight to the point, and written for a 5th grader to understand and execute. That's always my criteria whenever I'm writing an SOP, is if I just gave this 3 to 5 page document to somebody that has no context of the position, what we do, and I gave them the programs and tools that they needed in order to execute the SOP, would they be able to figure it out and get the result that I'm looking for? The third D is documented. This is the exact solution written down from A to Z in an easy to locate place. This is one of the biggest things that I struggled with whenever I first started writing SOPs, and it's something that I still struggle with to this day. I have to have somebody that's substantially more organized than me actually go through and fix this, as I make the mess. But having a clear place where all of your SOPs are documented and easy to find is really important. If you don't have an easy to locate place for these SOPs and they're stored in a format format that makes it easy to find the information that you need at your fingertips, your employees aren't going to use them. Rather than looking for the information, they're just going to be like, well, I can't find any information anyways in any of these SOPs, so I'm just going to figure it out on my own. So you want it to be easily accessible and easy to find all of that information in one spot. For us, the way that we do it is we just basically have a hub where we have all of our SOPs listed out, and then there's different tags for those SOPs, so that if you are a copywriter, for example, you could just click on the copywriter tag, and we do this all in Airtable, and you could click on the copywriter tag and only see copywriting SOPs. That way, if you need to learn how to write a revision or a specific type of email, it's right at your fingertips relatively quickly. The fourth D is duplicatable. This is basically creating a recipe that is going to be easily duplicated between people. It should be easily duplicated between 1,000 people without any explanation and still get the same result. For me, this is really just a franchising model, and this is going to be where a lot of the molding of the system is going to come from. A lot of the times you could build a system that's very specific to one person, but this step of being duplicatable means that you're writing it for just about anybody. Okay, now that we've gotten the 4Ds framework out of the way, let's go through and actually build an SOP. So let's go ahead and actually write our SOP. Now, before you get started, you're going to want to find a place that you are going to store all of your SOPs. Some people do it in Asana, other people do it in Google Docs, other people will have specific softwares that they use specifically for SOPs. Regardless of what you use, you should keep it consistent for your team and for your own sake. For us, we use Google Docs. We started out initially on Asana, but we found that Google Docs fit our needs just a little bit better. What I'm going to go ahead and show is the template that we use for writing all of our SOPs. At the very top, I just have my logo, and then underneath this is just a copyright claim, and then underneath that is just a nomenclature guide, basically. So this is how we write all of the nomenclature for the SOPs to make them easy to find inside of Google Drive. Then we write the purpose of the SOP, and then we put basically a table of contents, and we start writing out the SOP from A to Z. So this is the format we use. You're more than welcome to use whatever format you want to use, but this is what I'm going to be referencing in the video. Now, the next best thing that you could do before you even start writing the SOP is get some documentation. Now, what does this mean? One of the biggest mistakes that I made early on whenever I first started writing SOPs is just try to sit there and think like, okay, what are the steps that need to occur in order for me to complete this process, right? And the easiest way for you to actually do this is to record it. So this could be either a recording from yourself, or this could be a recording of a team member. Whenever I know exactly how I want something to be done, I'll pull up Loom, which is just a video recording software on Google Chrome. It's free. I definitely would recommend checking it out. I'll record a Loom video of myself doing the task, or if I have an employee that knows how to do the task really well, I'll have them record a Loom video doing the task and just really working through all of the steps of whatever process I'm trying to write a standard operating procedure for. Or option number 3, which is something that I learned relatively recently, and I honestly wish I knew sooner. If I don't know and I don't have an employee that knows, rather than just trying to work it out for myself, say it's graphic design, rather than me trying to figure out how to do graphic design and learn Photoshop and all these different things, that's not really going to be worth my time as the business owner initially, right? The easiest way that you could actually do this is hire 5 to 10 people for a one-time project, have them record a Loom video of them completing the task that you're doing, and then use that as the documentation. This is a killer hack. We've been using it more recently, and it's pretty effective. Now, once you have this recording, whether it's you, a team member, or just a couple of people that you hired as freelancers to record the video for you, what you're going to want to do is watch it through once in full to make sure you understand the full process before you start anything. Once I watch the full video, I'm going to go through and write out a couple of notes. And the first iteration is going to be what I call a skeleton SOP. This is basically just writing down every single step. So I'll watch it once just to make sure I understand. And then after that, I'm going to create my skeleton SOP. So let's go ahead and do that together. Let's just say that I'm watching a video for somebody that is researching topics to create YouTube videos. Initially, what I'm going to do is just create a series of bullet points listing down every single step in excruciating detail. I'm going to go above and beyond to make sure that nothing is missed. So let's just say, number 1, open up Google Chrome. Number 2, go to youtube.com. Number 3, use the keywords ecom in the search bar. Find channels that have more than 10K subscribers. Click on the channel. Click on the channel. So this is roughly what a skeleton SOP would look like. Now, I cut this short just to not drag on this video too long, but this is essentially what it would look like. I'd be watching the video and just writing down every single step that that person is going through in really in-depth detail. So open up Google Chrome, go to YouTube, use the keywords ecom, find channels that have more than 10,000 subscribers, click on the channel, sort videos by most viewed, add top 5 most viewed. And so really all I'm doing is I'm listing every single step and going above and beyond to make sure that everything is there. We could always remove things later, but it's way easier to remove steps rather than trying to figure out what steps you potentially missed. Now, just as a little tidbit here, if you hired 5 to 10 people to go through and record Loom videos for you, I would recommend watching all of those videos first and then document the top 2 to 3 best ones. Some of them are going to be way too long and not clear. Others are going to be just naturally a little bit better. So I would try to narrow it down to the best ones and then document those individually and then try to find patterns afterwards. Now, once you have every single step written down in excruciating detail, what you're going to do is you're going to watch the video back. You're going to play that video back and work through your steps, making sure that nothing was missed. Okay, did they click somewhere? Did they go to a specific YouTube channel? Were they sorting in a certain way? Were they thinking about something, but they just didn't say it? You're going to want to make sure that everything is there. So this second time is just going to make sure that you fill every single gap. Now, once this second layer is done and you've gone through every single step, what you're going to do is play a little game I like to call keep, kill, combine. Keep, kill, combine is basically just going through each individual step and deciding whether you're going to keep it. Keeping it means that it is absolutely necessary. Kill it, which means that it's not necessary and it's not really worth mentioning at all. Or combine, which is basically going to be saying, okay, this is very similar to something else and it's also necessary. So the way that I like to do this is I do this in 2 rounds. I'll start at the top of all of my list. So let's just pretend that I'm going through this list here. And let's just say that, I say, open up Google Chrome, go to youtube.com, use the keywords ecom in the search bar, find channels, blah, 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 blah. Let's just say that I say, okay, you know what, this step right here where it says click on the channel, it's not really necessary. That doesn't need to be there. So I'm going to go ahead and kill that. So I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to start killing any of the ones that I want. So am I going to keep this? Am I going to kill it? Am I going to keep it? Am I going to kill it? Let's just say that I just removed that one. Cool. That's going to be my first round. So now I only have items left that I'm either going to keep or that I'm going to combine. That's the goal for the second round. Now that I'm going through the second round, I'm going to say, okay, cool. Is there any steps that I could combine that are relatively similar and should be done in one action? Or I'm just restating things that aren't entirely necessary. So here in this sense, I would say open up Google Chrome and go to youtube.com can honestly be combined. That's going to be pretty much in the same sort of step here. So here I'm going to say open up Google Chrome and go to youtube.com. I'm going to combine that one. This one is important and should be an individual step. This one is important and should be an individual step, XYZ. So the second one, I'm either going to keep or combine. This is basically just going to clean up your list a little bit and make it so that it's a little bit more digestible. Whenever you're actually writing out a system, a lot of the times I'll have 3 pages of just individual steps all completely hashed out. And so once I have this sort of cleaned up a little bit, I really condense it down to 60 or 70% of the original skeleton SOP. Now at this point, I like to take a pause, and usually I'll go get a drink of water or just pause and sit back for a second. A lot of this is so mentally draining initially that you want to kind of decompress for just a couple of minutes. I'll return back to my individual steps and I'll start to try to phrase them in sentences or just clean them up a little bit to make them a little bit easier to read and in a more step-by-step format. First, you're going to go to here. Once complete, you are then going to do X and kind of just add in some of those individual layers. So I'll really clean it up, try to make it a step-by-step process at this point. Once that is done, I'm then going to go through and watch the video again and follow my SOPs. Okay, cool. Is this clear to me? Is this clear to me? Is this clear to me? And really on this next layer, I'm going to be looking for clarity. Is there any clarity that I could drive into these individual points to make them a little bit more specific for the team member? Keep in mind, whoever's going to be looking at this SOP and thinking about it for the first time probably has no context. They don't know that you're supposed to check off this box once something is done, or they don't know that you're supposed to type in this specific word. And so you have to be really, really clear. Pretend that you are trying to describe this to a 5-year-old that has no context of what you are doing. Now, once that is done, we are on the home stretch, and this is going to be the most important step. So you want to make sure that you don't miss this. This is going to be the 4 questions that I ask myself whenever I am finished with my SOP to make sure that I have it completely documented down to the T. So number 1, is the process so clearly defined that if it was printed out and handed to a 5-year-old, would they be able to follow this SOP and get the result that we were looking for? This is the first D. Definite. Number 2 is going to be, is the process easy to understand with no background knowledge, and are there 0 technical terms? If there are technical terms, are they defined? This is direct. A lot of the times we'll see people try to go through and overcomplicate things or use what's called technobabble, which is industry specific terms. You want to pretend that you're describing this to somebody that has no context, no idea about the industry itself. Number 3 is going to be building assets for your team. So if this was the only thing that was given to somebody, what else can I provide them that would help them understand the process? So here, this is where I'm actually going to add in assets. I'm going to add in things like screenshots with arrows, guidelines, examples, charts, tables, anything that I could provide that's going to give them a little bit more context, I'm going to here. Maybe I'll re-record a Loom video and just describe every single step and then show them it, just to give them a little bit of context. So that way they have everything that they need inside of this SOP, whether they're just getting started or looking at it for a reference. I'm always going to have a resources section, which is going to be at the very bottom of this template that I provided here, which is just important documents and dashboards. This is where I'm going to attach every single asset, but if I mention an asset somewhere inside of the SOP, I'll also hyperlink it there just to make sure I have it in both spots. That was a doozy, but that's the truth. That's exactly how you write standard operating procedures. I know a lot of people probably aren't going to get this far because it's not applicable to a ton of people who are just getting started in creating a business. But if you got this far, please make sure you smash the thumbs up button. I hope it was helpful. I hope that it kind of gave you a little bit of context on standard operating procedures. You can't live with them and you can't live without them. You definitely need them. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you smash the thumbs up button and hit the red subscribe button to join the freaking family. That's going to be it for this one though, guys. I will see you on the next video. Peace.